Good afternoon, everybody. It's quite interesting. I've called into the House of Chow today, and I've happened to come across two absolute gentlemen of the industry. One, Max Evans, the Superman of the Sulky, and the other, David Chow, co-proprietor of the House of Chow. So after the break, we'll be back to talk to these two very interesting personalities. Good afternoon. I'm here with Max Evans, Superman of the Sulky, and David Chow from the House of Chow in Adelaide, arguably Australia's best Chinese restaurant. And it's quite an interesting scenario that we have here. Max Evans comes from a family that had hotels and became one of Australia's best harness racing drivers. And David Chow has one of Australia's best restaurants, and I believe he wanted to be a harness racing driver. So we'll go across. Firstly, good afternoon, gentlemen. Nice to have you in.
Good afternoon.
Thanks, mate.
Good. Now, also, both Max and David have known each other for over 45 years. I think I'll get Max to go into how you both met, and we'll go from there.
Well, 45 years ago, David and Roz had a restaurant at Whyalla, and David has always been a trotting fanatic or a race fanatic, and I can remember the days Roz would be doing all the work and he'd be hanging out the window listening to races. But he was, I would say, South Australia's biggest trotting fanatic. So I've known him a long while. I drove a couple of horses for him when I couldn't drive. And we've been great mates ever since. And even today, every time there's a trot meeting on, David gets itchy pants. No one knows he's going, but he goes, and he's there.
So, Max, how did you get to Whyalla to meet David in the first place? I mean, since you was always in Adelaide after you moved over from Melbourne, but how did you get to go to Whyalla? I mean, it's not an easy trip in the old days in the 60s going from Adelaide to Whyalla. Were you driving or what were you doing?
No, not originally, but I was going to be a jockey when I was young. I grew up with horses. And when I matriculated, I was just under 6 stone of the old. And Fred Hoysted, we were going to fill the papers in, he said, you're going to be too old. You can drive jumpers. I said, no, I don't want to do that because I've used to follow the hounds and Findon and Oaklands Park. And I ended up marrying Fred Hanlons, who used to own, a great horse. I think it's not him. I'll think of my. Anyway, I married his wife, so they were trotting fanatics, and I had driven just a couple in the bike before I come here, but then I had them in mind that I'd come to Adelaide when I got away from the hotel, because I didn't like the hotel 6 o'clock closing, and I'd lived growing up in them. So I bumped down there, but later on in years, I was at Whyalla, nearly every Whyalla meeting they had while I was learning. Yeah, So I assume.
So, did you go up there specifically to drive, or did you take a team of horses up, or what did you do?
No, that was early. See, that was what 6. That was say.
I don't know. When were you first in Whyalla, Dave?
Oh, well, I was in Whyalla in 1971.
1971.
71. Yeah, so I was.
And how long were you in Whyalla then, David?
Well, I started with catering for Whyalla Hotel.
Yep.
And then soon after, and I set up my own little takeaway restaurant called Eastern Palace. And it's only got 5 tables. And
Did you have a horse called Eastern Palace?
No, I never had a...
There was a horse called Eastern Palace. I think Sulky had it, didn't he?
Well, at that time, I don't know Sulky.
Yeah.
And I was very busy in the restaurant. I'm cooking. I'm the one-man band in the kitchen, have to work.
So did you have any horses then, or did you only have horses?
I had a horse probably 3 years later, and I'm very lucky. My first horse is called Liam Glinford.
Liam Glenfern with
Yeah.
the late great Bill Shin.
Exactly. It's a champion. He won best 2-year-old in South Australia, and as 2-year-old he won 14 races. You know, and I think I'm very lucky, but also it's a bad omen.
Wow.
After I have that horse, I thought every horse going to be like that. I keep buying horse and nothing like that.
I've had Major Crocker who's 850,000 and all his brothers and sisters don't know who they are, unfortunately.
But one thing, you know, about the all, I think I have a wonderful time. I have good fun with all this. Doesn't matter the best horse or the worst horse. I enjoy it.
So you've met a lot of people. I think you've had horses with Bill Shin. You had horses. I think Max had one of yours.
Max had more than one. I think the best horse he had with me is because the Liam Glenfern. So I went to Leeton to buy another little Philip and earring, and I bought and I give to Max to train, and called Roslyn Park, and we talked to Kilmore first 2-year-old race,
A Tatlow.
and we boom, and we just kicked it in the front and never looked back, and we won.
You had a couple of dollars on that, David, did you?
Yeah. And then Max told me, he said, David, you know, that can be anything for you. We're not going to push her. I'm going to turn her away for 6 months, and we're going to bring
her back and let her mature, yeah.
And we're going to kill them. So I said, okay, well, leave it up to you. And then the horse come back, never be the same.
Never improved.
Oh, no, she's gone backwards.
That was amazing.
And then I said, Max, what's happening? So a few months later, then we found out she was in full. 2-year-old. So I don't know what, it's a mystery. Yeah. So we send the horse back. They give us the money back. And we lost the horse. And we lost.
They only had one race start.
Only one race.
And it wins.
And won like a champion.
Money back guarantee.
Nobody.
That's why you should always buy geldings in colts. They can't get involved.
And it wasn't any race. It was the Tatlow.
The Tatlow.
Which is the top class. Yeah. I don't remember, actually, my memory's gone a bit because I'm getting around and walking sticks and a bit
You're older than David and myself, so we'll let you off on that one, Maxie.
But if she had kept the form, she'd have been, not a Liam Glenfern. Liam Glenfern was a freak. But he later on with Liam Glenfern, what happened to him later in life? He won that many 2-year-old races.
Yeah. Then you remember you had Liam Glenfern for a few months, just for the time passed on. Then we sent a horse to Sydney, and then I think Robinson.
Kevin
Robinson. Yeah. And won one race in Sydney. And then after that, he got a ligament.
Yeah.
And so we ended up give the horse away to a little girl in Canberra.
Yeah.
And then they finished with Liam.
David, you had another horse, didn't you? Raced here. Did you have one with Ronald Webster?
Yeah.
How long ago was that? About 15 years ago?
Probably. Yeah, about 15 years ago, called Macho Man.
Macho Man, yeah.
Yeah, best 2-year-old.
Yeah, another 2-year-old. Yeah. And you bought into some yearlings from the yearling sales here, so you might be the 2-year-old king.
Well, I don't know. Well, this time I bought a 2-yearling with a few good friends.
Oh, that's good.
And Lionel Holick trained. And he reckoned that that was a colt. Now it's gelding. He reckoned that horse will have a little bit future.
Oh, that's good.
So let's.
So you've had some really good horses, and then Max, you've had You've been at the top with Nevada Smoke, of course.
Yeah.
I do remember him getting beat at Victor Harbour one day by Bronze Honey when he was $1.20. But then again, I do remember him winning the SA Cup and the South Australian Derby and the New South Wales Derby. So
And he won the Kilmore Cup. He was a very, very honest horse. And when he won the Kilmore Cup, I thought he would be a free-for-all horse in Australia.
a Grand Circuit type horse.
A Grand Circuit. But he never got to that stage. But he was still by far the best horse here.
But that changed to that level to the next is a bit like the elite footballers in the AFL. There's only a group of 10 that are the champions.
Either go on or like you would have thought when David had Liam Glenford and the Lip would have got up to that stage just because of the ability it had. But something.
So was it? What's the? I believe your first win, Maxie, was in Barmera, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was at Barmera. I used to drive.
Now they've closed Barmera, they've closed Wowler, they've closed Port Augusta. You've driven winners at all of them.
I used to drive it.
What's next?
Every meeting at those meetings, because as I told you, I used to take 6 horses when I learned to drive a bit down for Albie to Wowler one Saturday. Then the next Saturday I'd take another 6 down to Mount Gambier because I wanted to learn to drive. And the chap I was learning to drive off, Albie Halpert, and everybody, assuming he had seagull eggs or whatever it was. He had a lot of horses, but he wasn't a very nice man. So I was trying to get a license. A mate of mine sent a 3-year-old filly. This was prearranged when I couldn't become a jockey for me to drive, and because I didn't have my city licence then, Albie started it in Wavell, and it won 6 in a row. Cape Brook drove it, so I didn't feel.
What, you know the horse, that one, what it was called? Or?
Wedgwood Lass.
Oh, yeah, Wedgwood Lass. Yeah.
Anyway, I was better, but looking back at things, I really couldn't drive then properly. I couldn't rate horses properly and that, so maybe it was a good thing.
It's been a bad job for someone that can't drive.
Well, I tell you how I learned. And I had 12 drives, no easy drives, but I drove track work every morning. I went to every trial. So I made myself have.
You did an apprenticeship?
Yeah, I did an apprenticeship.
On your own?
On my own, without using Albie up. In reality. So I had a lot of drive. And then when I got the waiver, I still just couldn't rate them that good. So I used to carry a little radio in my ear and a piece of my ear, and I could hear. I could always get horses away. I always had the knack of getting horses away. Everywhere will tell you that. But racing was different then. It was for formation racing, in actual fact. So I had a little transistor. I drove at Wavell for 2 years with a transistor in my ear.
I was
listening to the trots. I was listening to the race I was driving. And so
plenty of footballers have done that.
When they'd say, here comes someone, of course, I picked up the pace. It was a handy trick. Nobody knew.
So you were listening to the race caller, Max?
Yeah, I was listening to the race caller in the race. Yeah, I knew your music.
I don't think they'll worry about rubbing you out now. It's a bit late.
It's a bit late. Oh, I could tell you lots of things they could rub me out for. People say I was a top. I think I was a top survivor. Whatever I've done, because I was a maniac punter, which I've...
Were drivers allowed to punt in those days, Max?
Yeah. Talking about that...
What about owners, David? You didn't want to have a bet now and again? Did he ever back one you said, look, this is going to win, David?
The day I took Belair Park Rosalind to Kilmore, I wouldn't believe, I'd never, this first time, David was a punter entrepreneur. He'd bring over all the Chinese up in Australia. So we get to the motel and I open these bloody, excuse the word.
Cases?
He used to open the suitcases and they were full of money.
Was that before or after the race, Max?
Before the race, but...
After the race it was more.
Which was another one of my great attributes. I was brought up silver spoon in my mouth. I always had a lot of money. I was always a gambling addict and handled big money. So it didn't matter to me if you told me you put
two bob or
20,000 or 40,000. It didn't worry me. It was just the same.
Just money.
Just money. It was just money. So some people say I was a good touring driver. I say I was a good survivor.
Now, gentlemen, we have to wind it up. I'm sure that we will get to talk to David again, and I'm sure we'll get to talk to Max over the next few weeks because, as you would know, Max has been there, done everything. They don't call him the Superman of the Sulky for nothing. I'm sure that he'd have some great stories about when he's in Macau. I don't know whether he'll tell us that in Chinese, Mandarin, or whether it's Spanish or English, but we will find out in the next couple of weeks. And I hope you all join us, and thank you lovely gentlemen for making your time available today.
Thank you.
Very much. Thank you very much, and thank everybody out there.